Hi, everyone. Tonight we're going to talk about special education conversations uh, across a couple of different families and go over a bit of IEP basics. I see that there's almost 800 of you. I'm really excited you're here for this. My name is Carson Chodos. I'm the Director of Disability Culture and Communications on the Family Engagement Team at the Special Education Office. I'm also a parent of a student with an IEP in New York City Public Schools myself. So this is a really meaningful conversation, and I'm really excited to have it all with you all tonight. Okay, let's get into it. The agenda for tonight, we're going to go over the whole process from eligibility, referrals, evaluation, the IEP meetings to supports and services. We'll also go over a couple different school setting descriptions to make sense of this and how you can get some more support and ensure that you have your needs met. Wonderful. So our first step, this is a video, What is Special Education? It can be found on YouTube. If you are having difficulty hearing this audio at any point, please know this is available on YouTube on our Beyond Access Series page, and there's closed captioning available online as well. This will only be a less than 2-minute video. Okay, so let's play this.
One of the things that you and your child's IEP team will determine together is your child's least restrictive environment. Some children thrive in general education classes, while others need the additional supports provided by a special class or a specialized school. General education settings are considered to be more inclusive as they have a mix of students with and without IEPs. Students may participate in classes with a general education teacher or an integrated co-teaching class with both a general education and special education teacher who work together to plan instruction. Students can also receive specially designed or supplemental instruction through special education teacher support services. Special classes and specialized schools for students with IEPs often have fewer students and have additional adults in the classroom. While special classes are held in schools alongside general education classes, specialized schools only serve students with IEPs. It is not uncommon for children to participate in a combination of these environments. For example, a child might need an integrated co-teaching class for math and a general education class for science. In all of these environments, students can also receive related services such as physical, occupational, and speech therapy, as well as counseling and other instructional supports. Your child's supports and services may change in intensity and frequency over time to match their strengths and needs. Whatever the combination of services, the goal is to create the best learning environment for your child. To learn more, visit our website at schools.nyc.gov/special education.
Awesome. I'm so glad we all got to watch that 101 very introductory video together. We're going to get to hear from many different parents and folks together. I also noticed that some folks are putting in the question and answer. We apologize that this function is visible for people tonight. There is no question and answer during the Beyond Access series webinars because there are so many folks and we want to give lots of personal attention to all of your questions. So if you do have a question tonight, we have a public inbox where you can send an email, specialeducation@schools.nyc.gov. And we promise to answer any emails that come into our inbox at specialeducation@schools.nyc.gov. We will give you attention and we'll go over that email at the end of the webinar tonight. So again, our apologies for the visible webinar, the visible question and answer. You can feel free to ignore that. So after seeing that video, let's go over some things to consider. So if you believe that your child may need special education services, we can always refer your student for a special education evaluation at any time. There is no deadline. And we always want to have a strengths-based mindset when thinking about our young folks, right? We all learn and develop at different speeds. And some folks learn differently, and that doesn't mean it's a disability. So students are also not eligible for special education services just because of limited English proficiency. We'll go over if special education services are the right fit for you and how to go about getting that and ensuring that your child has the supports and structures they need in public school. So a child may be eligible for special education services if they show delays in their that impact their performance in school or their ability to access the general education curriculum. So there are many different ways that this can show up in schools. Thinking, self-help skills like eating or dressing yourself, using language, behavior, ability to express our feelings, or physical abilities like vision, hearing, or movement. The way that the supports and the name of the team that supports your student, if they have these delays and need these supports, looks differently depending on the school that your young person attends. So if your child is a preschooler, then they'll be working with the Committee on Preschool Special Education. And that will be your IEP team. If you go to a charter, a private or non-public school, or a religious school or parochial school, you'll be working with the Committee on Special Education to convene the IEP. If your student goes to a K-12 district school, a New York City public school, then you're going to have a school-based team made up of teachers and school-based staff with you to create the IEP. And we'll go over what is an IEP, an individual education program. So in very broad terms, we'll get a little bit more specific. This is the process that we'll go through. We can make that initial referral or request for a referral at any point during the school year. Then there will be a series of evaluations to determine if your child would need special education programs and services in public schools. Then there's a meeting where you go over the results. Then we arrange and set up the special education services, followed by annual reviews and reevaluations, or triennials every couple of years. So this initial referral, as often called, has to be made in writing. It does not have to have any magic words or special language around it. It just needs to say in writing to the school the concerns that you, the parent, have about your child's development, learning, or behavior. You can state this request for a special education evaluation. You're going to list any services maybe your child is already receiving outside of public schools. Make sure to mention their name and date of birth so we can get this process started. Also, always include your name and your telephone number or a way to reach you. If your preferred language is not English, please include that in the referral as well. We'll make sure to have our communications match the language that you use at home. If you need help making a referral in writing, please speak to one of your school-based staff and we can help you make this writing. We understand that New York City public school staff sometimes use language that is different than the way that we talk about our disabilities in home and in our communities. So we thought it was really important tonight to include the perspective of different parents of students with disabilities across New York City public schools and how they speak about disability and how they speak about special education in a way that's authentic to their home and community. So I'm really honored that some parents have recorded videos and shared them with us today to go over their perspective and their stories. So it is my honor to start with Amy, and I'll press play and let y'all hear what she has to say.
Express as a parent who's raised a child with autism and a genetic disability, that it is not just a word of a handicap, but it is how I explain to people about what my child needs at the moment. Sometimes it's a struggle with trying to travel with your child on the public transportation or at the airport, or just going to get food at a restaurant or a fast food restaurant. People tend to say, excuse me, please, you have to leave. Your child is loud or your child is behaving mischievously, that we can allow. And sometimes us telling them, oh, my child is autistic or my child is neurodivergent, they may not understand what that really means to you as a parent and to the need of your child. Sometimes you just have to explain to them that if it gives you 5 minutes of peace to just to get through the airport and get to your destination, or if it's to ask people to kind of lower their voice or lower their music because your child has sensory stored loud noises, sometimes people can understand better than just the language of the word, but the meaning of how we as humanitarians and as humans can better serve each other with love and kindness and respect, and vice versa, because we also reflect that whenever anytime anybody has a need, no matter if you have a disability or not, we're all here to help each other. So I just want to share that you are not alone in this. You have people out there that are willing to understand and willing to listen. And you can ask help anytime and even give yourself grace to just cry in public because there is love in the air.
Wow. I really love that message that we are not alone. Thank you, Amy, for sharing with that message with us today. I think that's the most important part of this process, that we know that we're not alone as we're going through this. So let's go over. Oh, excuse me. I think the title disappeared. There it is. Here we go. So speaking of being not alone, we want to go over what happens if you notice that something, you have a concern that you want to share, and after you've made that initial request. So there will be an evaluation process, right? So after you give your consent, New York City Public Schools has 60 calendar days to evaluate. That means to find out if your child is eligible for special education services and supports. So there might be psychoeducational assessments, physicals, social history, maybe an observation of your child, or any other assessments needed if there's a suspected disability. There are also the options of bilingual assessments if applicable. For our preschool students, after consent is provided, there's also 60 calendar days, and the Committee on Preschool Special Education will give a referral packet with an important list to find your own evaluations of approved evaluation sites. So you're going to be working with many people right away. This is not a process that you're doing alone. There will be a team of folks to help you as you navigate this process. So after the evaluations are completed, then comes the IEP meeting. At this meeting, where parents are an important member, we're going to review the results from that evaluation to determine if special education services and programs need to be set up from the schools. So this is a collaborative process, and it's really important that you understand and parents understand every part of the IEP and the language, and that all of the evaluation results are explained really clearly. And that your voice is a part of this, and your voice is a part of this document. If your student is attending a private or religious school, we just want to be clear that you're not going to have an IEP set up. You're going to get an IESP set up, an Individualized Education Services Program. That's the different acronym we use for private, non-public, or parochial schools. Okay, we're going to keep going. So you have rights as parents of our students. We know this, but you must be notified about your rights to make decisions in every step of this process. And in your preferred language, you have a right to translation and interpretation. We want this process to be accessible to families because you know your child best. And we want to make sure that you feel empowered and clear about your rights and how this is going to happen. You need to be fully informed about any action that happens as part of the program, the evaluation, or afterwards. And you have a full right to withdraw consent at any time. It doesn't undo an action, but it's important to make sure that this process can be paused and stopped as needed by the parent. So we're going to listen to another parent, Joanne Cummings, and hear what she has to say.
Disability was new to us, and I had to educate myself as well as my family because my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD, and she's in the early percentile because usually girls with ADHD is diagnosed after puberty. So with that being said, it was a learning process, and with that, came with dealing with medication regimen, dealing with meltdowns, and just dealing with a lot and building up her self-esteem. So at home, I made sure my family understand to treat her not differently and let her know she's still special and she's still a part of us. And when she has her meltdowns, just let her be, let her express herself and hear her out because she's speaking her mind and letting us know what's going on because the medication suppresses her feelings. And I want her to be able to express herself. And when she's in school and I'm in the IEP meetings, I speak to the school and I let the school know that she is on medication. And I am one of those parents that let them know.
That's incredible. I really appreciate what she shared about empowering our students. This IEP process should be empowering not only to parents, but to our students as well. And I really appreciate that Joanne also shared that there's learning throughout this entire process and throughout our lives. We change in our language and we change in the way that we talk about students. As a parent myself, I have changed and grown so many times in the way that I learned to talk with my daughter about this whole process. Thank you, Joanne.
Ability.
So, as part of this process of knowing our rights, we have the right to make decisions, right? Through attendance at our meetings and involvement where we share our point of view, right? This has a right to bring other people to our meetings who have knowledge or special expertise regarding our students and our kids. We can have our meetings scheduled at a time that works for us. I know we're all busy working and doing many things, so these IEP meetings need to be accessible. If you also have a right to interpreters. All you need to do is just inform the IEP team that you need an interpreter and it will be provided. You also have the right to a parent member at the IEP meeting. If you have any questions about how to get a parent member, please email specialeducation@schools.nyc.gov. We're going to hear from another parent now who is quite special because she is also a New York City public school staff member. So she is both a staff member and a parent because that's kind of the joy of working in New York City public schools is that we get to have our students connected to our work.
Opinion. When I speak about my child's disability, it's all about knowing your audience, right? I may describe my daughter's diagnosis of autism differently according to who I am speaking with. So, for example, if I'm speaking to my parents at the SEED program, it definitely will be different from when I speak to my sister, who is a physician. And also, it's different when I speak to my sister-in-law, who has no idea of what autism was before the girls were born. So usually, universally, I say that it may take them longer to express their wants and their feelings, but they are well aware of their surroundings and what is being said to them. They may not initiate certain conversations or behaviors, but they are very capable of doing and have that inner drive to learn. They perceive the world differently and at times, but I look at that as an advantage and not a disadvantage. Some of the things that I say to people are like, have patience with them, please. They have a great understanding of what you're saying to them. They just don't know how to express it. Please acknowledge their feelings. To me, this is very important because I want you to know that they feel sad, mad, happy, all just like everyone else. Have boundaries with them and be consistent with them. We try not to baby them too much, but it is a fine line though. We want them to be as independent as possible. And even though they are identical twins, their diagnosis does not present in the same manner. So that you have to learn how they are as individuals, not the same person. Their expressive language is maturing. I like to use the word maturing because we are working very hard with all the strategies and the therapies to ensure that they express themselves as best as possible. And autism does not define who they are. When it comes to speaking about the girls' diagnosis in ways as like a teacher or maybe school staff may, I say yes, I do. Because I am an occupational therapist, at times my language does mirror the teachers and school staff. I do understand the verbiage and the terms that are being said to me. And however, when I don't, I definitely ask questions so that we can all be on the same page. I also know how to talk in layman's terms to people who may not understand the diagnosis or certain words that are being said. So I do understand that knowing more about the diagnosis is what is needed and what strategies also, so that they can function as best as they can and be as independent as possible. So I do speak at times like the school staff and teachers. But I want to thank you again for this opportunity and to know a little bit more about my daughters, both Scarlett and Skylar. And have a great night, everyone. Opinion.
I really appreciate what Natasha shared and how it is a strength and how we need to frame these IEPs and these conversations and the strengths that our students have. Yes, Natasha's daughters are different, and she shared they experience the world differently, but in making sure that this process is rooted in affirming feelings, in witnessing our students and each other is a critical part of making this feel so much more human and so much more connected. I really honor what Natasha Scott shared about we want what's best for our children, right? And we want our kids to have developing and growing skills so that they can be independent and thrive in this world. And we want the IEP process to reflect that, where parents feel connected and like they have a team of people here that see their child, affirm their humanity and all of the wonderful parts of them. And like she said, are more than just the diagnosis of autism or any other IEP classification. Your kids are more than that, and we want them to feel affirmed in that process. Thank you so much, Natasha Scott.
Opinion.
So when we're in this process and we're considering the different programs and service decisions that we're making, right? Because parents have a right to make decisions and be a part of this process. We have to think about the entire continuum of services, and we have to think the continuum of placement and the least restrictive environment, right? That's the extent in which students and services, the extent to which services are provided to the student with a disability in settings with their non-disabled peers. We believe in inclusion as much as possible and when it's the right fit for students. Here is a helpful graphic about the New York City continuum of services, programs, and placements. To read it aloud, we have the general education, which might include special education teacher support services inside a general education class or ICT. This was also all included in the video before, so don't worry if you have trouble seeing the screen. We also have special education teacher support services in a separate location. We have special class in different ratios of smaller students to teachers and other adult staff in the room. And we have special class in a specialized school, home and hospital instruction, and non-public day and residential schools. In all of these placements and services and programs, we offer related services. And we also have IEP assigned paraprofessionals or program modifications, or maybe supplementary aids and services. There's many choices out there in the topography of New York City Public Schools special education. So with all of those words, we just wanted to clarify a little bit for y'all to make sure you understood. If it says on an IEP, NYCDOE, non-specialized school, what that means, it's a New York City public school, formerly known as a community school. Sometimes it might be called a neighborhood school with your friends, or charter schools within New York City. If you see the writing a placement on the IEP that says NYCDOE specialized school, that means it's a New York City public school within District 75. You might have heard it called D75. That's our non-geographic New York City public school district. All students in New York City in District 75 have an IEP. There might be IEP classes within a non-specialized school or a building that is entirely New York District 75. There's also New York State, so NYSED approved non-public schools. The IEP team will talk to you about those. Those are day treatment programs or residential programs. If a student is placed at a private or religious school at the parent's cost, and students who are in approved homeschool settings, they are entitled to IESPs. We talked about that earlier. New York City Public Schools does not place students in religious schools or private institutions. Great. We want to hear from an incredible parent, Paulette Healy, and I'm really excited about this voice and perspective.
When it comes to talking to my children about their disabilities, we started talking to them very young because we didn't want them to absorb and internalize the society stigma around disability, especially, around depression, around autism, around anxiety, and things of that nature, because it's part of who they are. It's part of their makeup. It's part of the different pieces that make them such incredible individuals to start with. So when we talk about their disabilities, Lucas especially talks about his autism as being his superpower, because he sees the world differently than how society sees it. And by seeing it in that way, he feels he has the unique skills to change it. And that has inspired his sister, who suffers from depression and anxiety, to be able to utilize her voice and step in for those who are feeling marginalized. So in our household, disability is not an ugly word, and it shouldn't be, especially like when the national studies are saying that 1 in 4 people will identify as disabled or will be identified as disabled before the end of their lives. So we're talking about a quarter of our population. So if we don't start those conversations at home, then we have no recourse in terms of changing this world for the better.
Wow, that was really powerful. I really appreciate, Paulette, that you talked about your students as being agents of change. And that's what we want in New York City Public School for all of our students, to feel empowered as change makers in their home and their community. And we want that for our students with disabilities as well. That was really special. And I really appreciated you said that disability is not a dirty word in your household. We should be proud of our identities. And students are invited and welcome to be a part of the IEP process. You can bring your kids if you would like to any part of the meetings or the discussions, and you are welcome to share the IEP with your kids at home at your comfort and in a way that feels affirming to you and your family and community. But I really appreciate, Paulette, that both of your children with IEPs were in conversation with each other and saw their classifications as strengths and ways that they could leverage community change for themselves and their peers. That's really powerful. Thank you. So As one of the many tools we have to empower ourselves and to understand this entire process, we have something that we like to call the NYXA Parent Portal, or New York City Schools Account. This lets you guys see your child's grades, test scores. You can access forms from your child, take classes in our parent university, reset your forms, or reset your password. If you would like to take a screenshot of the QR code available on the screen, or you can visit our New York City Public Schools Special Education Family Resources page. We have guides printed and translated in all of our languages that walks through the same information in much greater detail. Tonight was really short and we didn't get to go in all the specifics. So if you would like more details, please check out our Family Guide to Special Education Services for school-age children, or the Preschool Special Education Services pamphlet. We also have guides to transition planning. So if you already have an IEP and you're not sure what's next for your student, please check out our Family Guides to Transition Planning for life after high school. Part of that transition support, because it's really important that we feel as parents that our students are set up for success, not just in school, but in the whole world, in our community at large. We also have transition and college access centers. These places support students with IEPs and you, family members, through the transition from school to adult life. They're in all boroughs. I just put the logo for the Manhattan one because I liked it. But check out this QR code, take a picture of it on your screen, or check out by Googling New York City Public Schools TCACs, Transition and College Access Centers, for more information about how to talk with a support staff member. We also have an entire guidebook just to help the first transition for students entering kindergarten. So the Kindergarten Orientation Guide helps families of students with disabilities in entering kindergarten in fall 2024. We're really excited to welcome your kindergartner into New York City Public Schools. My daughter is a first grader and I use this guidebook as we were going from preschool to kindergarten in her process. I found it very helpful. Thank you. So I mentioned earlier tonight, please email us at specialeducation@schools.nyc.gov if you have any questions tonight. I'm so grateful you all joined us for this conversation today, and we are here to answer your questions and walk alongside you or move alongside you as you go through the IEP process. Thank you again, everybody. We're grateful to see you here. Goodbye.